I am not the only woman who feels like humility is the best route, meaning I'm going to dim my light in order for other people to have light. I was tired of that narrative. I was so tired of it. I thought, why can't we all have light? Why do I have to dim mine in order for yours to shine? That's your responsibility. Shine your light and I'm going to shine mine. And if we all did that, how much light and beauty and mission and purpose and gorgeous impact would we create?
Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, a podcast designed to encourage women to take their back of the napkin idea, launch it, and grow a wildly successful business. I founded We Wild Women, an entrepreneur training company, to help women like you, moms and go-getters, start the business of their dreams the right way. Not too long ago, I launched my $1 million agency when I was 8 months pregnant with my first son and welcomed my second son only 11 months later. So I know how to grow businesses and babies. Join me as I teach you the guiding principles and how to start and grow your business while overcoming the voice in your head screaming, "It's not possible." These raw and funny episodes will make you feel like you're right here with me, sipping on some Pinot and leaving more confident saying, "Yes, I can." Every episode leaves you with some action items and a real kick in the ass to get started. Here on Into the Wild, you'll hear from other trailblazing entrepreneurs and experts because I know that the best advice is from someone who's successfully done it before. So put your headphones on, grab a cup of coffee, and tune in because Into the Wild is about to begin.
Subscribe to my mom's podcast.
Hey, you wild women! My next guest is the founder and CEO of Becoming Iconic, a 7-figure global business and leadership brand that elevates entrepreneurs who desire to create a 7-figure legacy through integral leadership. Jen is also the host of the Becoming Iconic podcast. Becoming Iconic, it's all about the real, the raw, and the vulnerable truth about being a female entrepreneur while weaving in the practically and what it takes to design a life and business that you love. Becoming Iconic is the invitation to step into the new paradigm of leadership and empower women who are ready to revolutionize the way they show up in their lives and businesses forever while welcoming pleasure, joy, and abundance. I love this. Okay, so please welcome the incredible Jennifer Szpigiel.
Hey, thanks for having me. Hi, Renee.
Thanks for joining me.
I'm so
a fellow
excited
Canadian.
Yeah. How about that?
I know, it's funny. I don't actually interview too many Canadians.
And I don't think either of us knew we were Canadian until we started talking. So there you go.
That's hilarious. You don't sound Canadian, eh?
It's interesting. It's because I've been working globally for so long. You start to really just, at least for me, I feel like I'm a global being. I just feel like I connect with so many people all over the world. So I don't really identify with I am anything, like in terms of a place. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. But at the same time, I'm really proud to be Canadian.
Me too. And I agree with you. I've coached women from all over the world, from all walks of life. And I think the connection point is just being a woman.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful. The different cultures, different beliefs, but at the end of the day, it's just like kind of have the same issues.
Yeah, we do. We share a lot. And actually, as human beings, we all share a lot. So I think that's the really nice thing to come to realize. We sometimes feel so separate and so alone.
Yeah, I know.
And we wonder and we contemplate and we negotiate ourselves all the time. And then we realize as the more work we do and the deeper we go, how much we're all just so connected.
Yeah, and the same.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So let's get to know you a little bit better, faster. Let me ask you some quick questions.
Oh, let's go.
Okay. So where are you from?
I'm just outside of Toronto, Canada.
Yeah. And what is your favorite quote?
Well, my favorite quote would definitely be from Marianne Williamson. She's my favorite author as well. And that's, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
Because we are powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And what is one of the best pieces of business advice you ever received?
To step into your personal power to recognize your strength and to realize there is no competition when you do all of those things.
Wow. Okay. We could stop there because that's true. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to reframe it to call it co-opetition. And the moment that I set that as the standard is the moment I was like, okay, you think about it, there's like almost 8 billion people on the planet. And if your service is just such a small portion of the entire population, like there's still a lot of space for all of us.
Oh, yeah. And no one has ever walked the journey each of us have walked. So there's so much strength and so much confidence in that no matter how many business coaches there are, or how many people in your network marketing business there are, or how many life coaches there are, nobody can do it or speak to it or lead it the way you have because of the journey you've been on.
That's so true. And I remember one time when I was launching my business, I was like doubting myself because it's like, there's so many people doing this. And the reality is there isn't. There's not a lot of people doing what I'm doing. It's just that when you start doing the research, then all of a sudden it just seems like everyone's doing it. But at the time, there was no one doing it that was like a recent mother. And so one of my really good friends in the business world said, people will connect to you over them because you're a mother. And we never think about those experiences or parts of our life, the facets of our life that actually do us a favor, a one-up in business and in life. So I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's one of your biggest business mistakes?
Not healing fast enough. So I'm a huge believer in what my mission is to shift the paradigm in leadership. And I wish I had realized that personal growth is not simply reading a book and going to conferences and listening to podcasts. Personal growth is actually doing the work that we all want to avoid. If I had time back, I wish I had started sooner.
Wow. Okay. I get it. Yes, it's being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Being okay with being uncomfortable.
Looking at your shadows and realizing that when you do that, the light gets to shine in and it's all going to be okay. And they actually end up being your superpowers. They actually end up giving you edges because you've worked through there. And when you do the healing, you can apply the lessons. When you're still wounded, you project that. And in what that translated for me in my leadership was the desire for validation. I spent a lot of my leadership career and my entrepreneurial career really seeking people to tell me, you're doing great, you're awesome, I love you, you're the best coach. I was looking for that all the time to feel like I was doing a good job. And once I healed and came to the other side to look in the mirror and know that I'm doing that good job and to know that I am proud of myself and those things are bonus and extra. And I appreciate that generosity. I accept that generosity and it still matters and means a lot to me, but I don't need it to be in my confidence.
And I think we're all seeking that external validation to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably a common thread amongst all the women that I coach in my community.
I bet.
They need to be validated. The idea needs to be perfect and validated. I need to be validated. So I can't do this unless that happens. So then they just stop themselves.
Right. And when we're not validated, if we're in that place and we put something out into the world and let's say someone doesn't buy or we don't have the response we were hoping for, what a lot of people do who have not healed or done the work is we retract and we go backwards. And all the momentum we were just gaining comes to a complete halt and we actually start moving backwards. And it's, to me, I started really seeing that as a bit of a waste. Like I'm wasting time. I'm wasting all that I've done. I don't want to do that. I want to stack. I want to build. I want to continue momentum. And so sure, there's going to be potholes and hiccups and all the things. But if I can keep moving forward, even if it's at a crawl sometimes, at least I'm continuing the momentum.
Yeah, I love that. And they say that the tortoise wins in the end anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Slow, consistent action. Okay, so last quick question. Is there a book that you can recommend today?
Yeah, Return to Love by Marianne Williamson.
Okay.
I've read it dozens of times. I'm in the midst of reading it again, and it is my most treasured book.
What's the big thing for you in that book? And I'm sure you've probably uncovered several different things the more you've read it. But right now, what's the thing for you?
For me, I'm a very spiritual person. It's the connection to what is really important and how taking back my personal power. She teaches a lot about this. It's basically a summary of the Course of Miracles. And so it's really based on how much power we have through love and how everything we do in life is a choice of love or a choice of fear. And learning that was just one of the best discerning things I've ever created. So if I'm sitting in a moment of, oh my goodness, I'm going on this podcast with Renee, and what if I say something wrong? And I ask myself, well, am I in love right now or am I in fear? And it's a really obvious answer. It's never where you're scratching your head going, I'm not sure. I mean, it's always obvious. I'm in fear right now. So what could I do to come over and step into the love? Oh, you've got this. You've done this before. Come on, and you end up coaching yourself in such a beautiful way. So it's really about radical self-acceptance and love.
Yeah. And I feel like we're always on that journey. This year, I turned 40. And they say there's something about turning 40 that's like this, you have this no F's attitude. Mm-hmm. It's true. It's like, you just do, right? And it's like, we were joking about how I did CrossFit right before recording. And I had to stop midway through the workout to take a couple Tums because I just couldn't do all the burpees that were required. And my 20-year-old coach was like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm fine. But I realized I would have been ashamed about this before, but now I just don't care. It's just who I am. I need the Tums. But yeah, this radical self-acceptance. It's just who I am.
Yeah. But that doesn't just happen. I think that women perceive women who have gone down this journey as having it all together and they have it figured out somehow, or we have a secret. And I believe because so much of this is done behind the scenes, the hard work, the deep inner work, the acknowledgement of some of the things we can shift and maybe change our perspective of, that's not necessarily out in the open for everybody to see. And so that journey, it can look like from the outside world, like we just figured it out. And what I would love to say to women listening in is this is absolutely not about figuring it out. What it is about being really open to all aspects of yourself and being readily available to the next lesson, not being so afraid of the quote unquote failure that, maybe my course won't sell, or maybe nobody will buy my product, or maybe it's like the what if game. What if nobody buys? What if this happens? What if that happens? And what you learn to do is just flip it on its head and go, well, what if it does work? What if people do buy? What if people do care what I have to say? And that's really energizing.
Yeah. And on the other side too is there are people that are just as afraid of success as they are of failure.
Yeah.
And they don't do anything.
Yeah, that's that quote, right? We're more afraid of being inadequate, we should not be as afraid of being inadequate as seeing our truest potential. That makes us more fearful. What does it mean if I actually am successful? What does it mean if my community grows to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? What does it mean if all of a sudden I have this wealth and my bank account has more commas in it? Can I hold that? Am I going to be okay in that? Am I going to be overwhelmed? Will I have to sacrifice my family to create this? We really get in the way of seeing our capacity. And that for me is something I really want to stare down and chase at the same time.
Yeah. I wish that advice landed on me when I was 20 years old. Could have used that back then. Okay. So I'm curious, what inspired you to start your business?
So this is going back 16 years. When I started entrepreneurship, I was a mom of two. I had moved to a new city. I had no friends, no family there. I had left my corporate career in marketing. I loved my job. And I left that because I really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and be in this new city and be able to really be available to my children. And I quickly lost myself. I became that mom that was wearing sweatpants and Lululemons and ball caps. And sometimes I didn't even get out of my pajamas. And that's just not who I was. I'm someone who loves to get dressed. I am someone who loves to get her hair done and her makeup done and meet people and be social and especially go after goals. One of my gifts I was born with is I love to stretch myself. I'm not really fearful of trying new things and I don't know, going all in. And that wasn't what I was doing as a stay-at-home mom. I was sitting on the floor and playing with my kids. And I love my kids. I'm now a mom of 4. I love my children. Yeah.
They just multiply.
But there's a lot of babies. So we're talking about mompreneurship. That's my jam. But I really lost myself. And I was in this point in my life where I honestly felt like I had to choose. I had to choose to go back to work and quote unquote sacrifice or give up my time with my kids. Or I had to sacrifice or give up my personal dreams and ambitions to be a stay-at-home mom. And this was just a no-win situation for me because neither side felt correct. And I eventually found entrepreneurship. I was like, I could build something from home. Wait, I can be with them. And I can also be with me. I can just bring some energy, like reinvigorate my spirit, because I felt so lonely and bored. And I just knew my identity was more than mom. And so I started that journey, and that was really the spark. There's also a story, I've told this several times, but it's an important one. My oldest daughter, Gracie, we were driving, and at the time I was teaching spin classes. So I was driving to teach a spin class, and the kids would go to the daycare. So it was like a perfect win. And she said to me, "Mommy, where are all the cars going?" And so I said, "Oh, maybe that one's going to the grocery store, or that one's going to work." And so I was just playing the game with her. And she looked at me and she said, "No, Mommy, daddies go to work and mommies stay home."
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important to know there was nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, with a daughter looking at me and feeling like that was her observation of the world, and that was what she thought women and females did, was to be home and the daddies go to work, it triggered me. It triggered me into something. And I thought, I've got to show her what's possible. And I've got to show her what tenacity means. And I've got to show her that anything you desire to do is possible, and you can make that your reality. And so that was really the biggest nudge, I say, to go all in into my entrepreneurship journey.
Nice. Well, thanks, Gracie, for pushing your mom.
She's grateful she did.
Well, how old is she?
She's 18 now. That's just a really weird thing to say.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Teenagers.
She's 18 now. Yeah. She's 18, and we have a great relationship, and I've been able to really support her, but she's become the most tenacious. I use that word because she is the epitome of the word. And I honestly believe raising kids as an entrepreneur, as a mompreneur, is one of the best gifts for your kids, because most children out there in the world sit around the dinner table and listen to their parents complain about somebody at work, gossip, talk about how they don't like their job, my boss, this. I mean, these are the conversations, and this is the reality of many, many homes. So these kids are absorbing and soaking in negativity, talk behind people's backs, not being happy, but you're not happy, but you do it anyway. So the example, and again, it's not wrong, but I have to kind of want to shake people a little bit to say, but is it right?
Yeah. I had a similar experience here. So I have two boys. And we have an incredible woman that works with us to help around the house and help with the kids. Her name's Betty. And it wasn't, I don't know, maybe a year ago when I said, "Hey, before we left to go to school, to the boys, did you make your bed?" And they turned to me, they're like, "Why would I do that? That's Betty's job." And I'm like, no, actually, Betty isn't hired to help you. She's here for us, for my husband and I. And that just changed the course of everything, especially when it came to stuff around the house. And they started doing their responsibilities. We didn't call them chores. They'd come home and they'd be like, "So-and-so at school gets paid to do this." And I was like, "Well, that's great. They have their own reasons why." I go, "You don't get paid to do any of this stuff, because you get fed, you get your toys, you get to live here for free." And I realized that's my responsibility as a parent, but you have to also understand that you're still earning this. And if you make a mess, you clean it up. But for me, the big argument was that it's not just a woman's job to do this. And don't you ever think you can become a lazy person because someone's going to clean up after you. Nope. So that was it. And then the moment they said that, it was like chore, and adding to their list of responsibilities. And they're like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that."
What did I say?
But they see it. And like, even those conversations around the dinner table, and it's a big reason why I'm also an entrepreneur, is I need them to see that this is what mom does, and she's happy. She's making money, and she's steering other women in the right direction as well. And she's inspiring other women to grow their business. So yeah, thank you for that. That's a beautiful story. And how long now have you been in business?
So I've been an entrepreneur for 16 years. I pivoted and I started becoming iconic in January of 2020. So it's a young brand, but I knew I wanted to pivot into something that was really personal and had a really big leadership journey. And I knew I wanted to start something really fresh with a fresh set of eyes, a new heart, a new spirit, new lenses. And so I knew I wanted to start a podcast. That was something I've always wanted to do. And I spoke on stages all over the world, and I loved public speaking, but I wanted just to be more accessible and not anticipate or think about the next gig on stage, but instead be in people's homes, in their cars, while they're working out, whatever it may be. So I knew I wanted to do that. So Becoming Iconic was definitely going to be the name of the podcast. And I chose that name because it really triggered me. I remember iconic. It was gifted. It was channeled. I didn't use that word. That wasn't something that was a part of my vocabulary. And it's like iconic. And the very first thing I said to myself is, who am I to use the word iconic? Mm-hmm. I mean, Oprah's iconic, Beyonce's iconic, Rihanna's iconic, like Victoria Beckham's iconic. These are icons. I'm Jen Szpigiel. Like, what is that? And the trigger in that for me was the very thing I started to go after, because I thought, I'm not the only one who feels this. I am not the only woman who feels like humility is the best route, meaning I'm going to dim my light in order for other people to have light. I was tired of that narrative. I was so tired of it. I thought, why can't we all have light? Why do I have to dim mine in order for yours to shine? That's your responsibility. Shine your light, and I'm going to shine mine. And if we all did that, how much light and beauty and mission and purpose and gorgeous impact would we create? So it was because it triggered me, I chose the name, because I didn't know how I felt in it. And I thought, but it's going to make me step into something. And I had no idea COVID was going to happen. That was not a thing in January. I was like, there was whispers. I remember being in Maui and hearing whispers of it. And then, the world changed. But as the world changed, I just found myself in such a groove doing exactly what I was supposed to do. And when you are aligned and you're in integrity and you are on a mission, it's incredible what doors open up.
Yeah. I love the light reference to the metaphor. We always say around here, be the lighthouse, right? So the lighthouse purpose is to signal to the ships that they're close to shores and to watch where they're going and to guide them in the right direction. It's like, that's true. And you're not going to be for everybody. I have something new and exciting to share. Something that I've been working on for years. Having personally coached hundreds of female entrepreneurs on all things launching and growing a dream business, I knew that these women, much like you, needed more. Something special, inclusive, and worthwhile. A place to go to have meaningful business discussions, ask questions, gain access to expert advice, and connect with amazing people. It's called The Wild Collective, and it's open now for you to join. When you join the Wild Collective, you'll get access to a trusted and uplifting community, game-changing training and content, world-class expert sessions, business secrets from the experts themselves, templates and tools to help you skip the messy middle and go straight to building a wildly successful business. The results are already coming in. Allie Monroe of Care Dental explains, the Wild Collective has helped me achieve my business goals and work the right tasks into my schedule on a consistent weekly basis. And I get held accountable to a group of amazing entrepreneurs who ensure I'm executing on all the small goals that it takes to achieve the big ones. Hannah Hain explains that the Wild Collective is an amazing community. What I love the most about it is the connection with other incredible women in business, celebrating wins, sharing tips, and offering support and lifting each other up. It's this community environment that makes me want to stay accountable to my business goals on days that it feels hard to. Everyone wants you to succeed, and you can really, truly feel it. See, I've always dreamed of making my coaching practice more accessible to women who are launching and growing their dream business. And this is why I started the Wild Collective. The best part is that it's open right now for you to join today. So head on over to wewildwomen.com/membership. That's www.wewildwomen.com/membership to join for just $99 a month on an annual basis. So go ahead, click on it, and I can't wait to see you there. Talking about leadership, when you say shifting the paradigm in leadership, so you talk a lot about that, what does that mean for us?
Thank you. That's such a good question. And I love talking about this. And this is really what we have been talking about, to be honest. A lot of women are stepping up into leadership. And as we do that, a lot of things get triggered, like self-limiting beliefs. Who am I to be this successful? Or stepping into the masculine and feeling like we have to choose. And then all of a sudden stepping back into the feminine and feeling tremendous amounts of guilt and this constant tug of war in our lives. The other thing I feel is we have tolerated a lot of things in the business world, the online space that I don't think we need to tolerate anymore. I think we know better. And so we get to do better. And it's not about pointing the finger and saying, well, she needs to do better. It's about what can I do to be an example, a living example of leadership, of what it looks like to live full out and what it looks like to be fully myself, to not seek perfection, to start seeking that progression. How am I better today? It's been my prayer for as long as I can remember. I mean, this is like 30 years of prayer. Dear God, please today help me to be better than I was yesterday. That's all I ask for. It's just like improvement. And that's to me what leadership is. It's not being something for somebody else. It's being all of ourselves so that other people can come around us and accept that.
So interesting. Because the narrative really is like a leader needs to be this. And there's a lot of it that's true in it, right? So I always say to the people that I'm coaching is that the moment you hire anybody for your business, whether it's a freelancer, contractor, employee, even just being an entrepreneur, you become a leader. Mm-hmm. And I say that because I didn't realize the importance of that when I started my business. And I thought that in business, like they say that the number one problem is people. People are your number one problem in business, but they're also your number one asset. And so you becoming the leader means that you absorb all this energy and there's a lot of responsibility on you. And it's difficult because you have to shift as your business grows, as people come and go, you have to shift as the leader. Mm-hmm. And it's one thing that I know most female entrepreneurs do not spend enough time on in understanding and in studying in how they can become a better version of themselves as a leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for me too, it's about steadiness because I was the token of shape shifting for people. That what didn't work well for me. So it was like, I was with this person and what I teach a lot about is performative personas. So we show up and we're performing and there's nothing wrong with that. And there is a time where you do have this like alter ego, that comes over. That's different if it's coming from a pure place. But a lot of us, it's coming from this place of I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy enough. And it goes back to when we were talking about healing. See, there's a lot of women that we have never had the availability of success that we have today. It's never been done in history. We are changing history. I don't think we fully acknowledge that properly. I feel like we talk about it in like a woo-woo kind of way, but I actually wonder if we understand how big this is. I mean, it was 1960s. We couldn't even have a credit card in our own name. That's not that long ago.
Wasn't it like 1981 that it was the only time a woman can open a bank account without a male cosigner?
Yes. I don't know the date, but I'm thinking, do you know how recent that is? I mean, these are real things. And now here we are where you hear 10-figure months are normalized. Or 10-figure months, 10,000K months.
I'm like,
10-figure months. Wow. In Jen's world, when you hang out over here, we have 10-figure
Can I work
months.
With you, Jen?
Yeah, let me tell you. I just put that out into the universe. Let's go. 10K months are normalized, right? Like that's a normal thing. That's people feel like that's something they can achieve. You may not even be doing that right now, but I would guarantee most people can visualize what that would feel like and they can think about it and they can feel like, I think that might be possible. Yeah. Now we're in a world online where 100K months are happening and it's like popcorn. It's pop, 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 pop. This has never been done before. And now we're in leadership and now we're supposed to figure this out in real time. There's no books. There were no people before us doing this. There's not these women that have led this way or blazed this trail. And we're like, okay, I can learn from her. We are blazing it. So the level of responsibility is very big. And it also comes with the notion that we must be open to doing a lot of work. There's a lot of narratives to break, a lot of cords to break, a lot of self-actualization and realization so that we can stand in this and be steady in it. Because I don't know about you, but I do not want to build something that completely tears me apart, completely tears my family apart.
I think what you're saying in terms of the work is a lot of healing. So I interviewed the wonderful Dr. Valerie Rain, and she's the author of the book, The Patriarchy Stress Disorder. And she talks about this, how we are born, it's in our DNA as women to be oppressed. And so sometimes when we're faced with this opportunity to grow and this opportunity to be uncomfortable, to try something new, is we just stop ourselves. And I see it in myself. So anyways, I'll put that in the show notes of what episode, but it's a very good complement to this particular argument.
Yeah. And find the modality. I think we think that healing means it's going to be this stiff office we got to go to and sit on a couch across from someone and dig up our past. I don't believe that has to be the way, unless that works for you. That doesn't have to necessarily be the choice. There's so many modalities. There's so much availability, but it's this feeling of I am willing to go and mend and heal and forgive. And when I do that, then I can stand in front of a community of gorgeous heartbeats and know that I do not need them to validate me. I do not need them to buy from me. I do not need them to applaud me and give me likes and comments, because away from all of that, I am so happy in my own skin. I am so confident in who I am. And because of that, when people are attracted to me, it's a really clean, pure place to be.
Man, that's so much easier to be a leader too. Because they're already attracted to you. They're already attracted to that energy and they want to be a part of that.
Yeah. I think how many coaches out there have clients who are sucking the life out of them, who are not aligned, or having clients who are not paying, or they cancel, or like there's all these things that happen. And we think that is because of the person. And when are we going to step back into the responsibility of why am I attracting this? What is it? What is it? And do I want to work with people who are really finding themselves that are in that place? And if so, I got a lot of work to do to be able to hold space for that, where it doesn't affect me. And that I'm actually attracting this because I want to help heal that. But if that's not who you are, you're like, I want to work with elevated entrepreneurs and I want to, work with go-getters and people who are ready to lead themselves. Well, how well are you doing that?
Oh, I know. So my company before this, we worked with funded technology startups. It was all dudes, which was fine. I'd say like 85% of our clients were amazing. But there were those few that came in and they felt entitled. They were chauvinists. And it was so hard to work with these people. The best clients in that agency were people that had a plan, were very organized, had very specific questions to ask, but then let us do our work because they trusted us.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't tell you how many times invoices were never paid, even though we were on top of it. And they just threatened to never pay us because we weren't doing the work, even though we had a very clear track record. And I'm like, it's just me. I don't think women would do this. Yes, I've had coaching clients cancel because they were having babies or just didn't end up being a good fit. And I'm totally okay with that. But guess what? They would say, it's not a good fit, or I'm having a baby. And they were honest about it. And they were graceful about saying, can I get a refund? Or can we pause or something? And there's never been any issues in working with just these elevated women, as you said. And I love that paradigm in leadership now. Now I feel like I'm going to start attracting the right people.
Yeah, because when we are being the it, like I always talk about the it factor, it's not new. Lots of people talk about that, but we all have that factor. And when we have that, we attract so much beauty back. I mean, it's just incredible. Sometimes it's a tad bit overwhelming. I'll have some clients be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening. They'll say, I can't believe this. This is crazy. I'm like, whoa, watch our words. What do you mean you can't believe in this is crazy? This is exactly what you wanted to manifest and bring into your life. So how about, of course, and it's because of who I am, and acknowledging yourself. See, as women, again, we want to go right back into that humility. And it was just recently, I looked up the word humble. Have you ever actually looked at the definition of humble?
No, but I started using it a lot last night.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because I did my first volunteer session at an organization that does outreach to the homeless in the community. And it was just, I said, it was humbling to me because it's the only word I could describe how these women who, there was a couple instances where there was women that had potentially were overdosing and all these things that I've never physically seen in my lifetime because of my place of privilege. And I was like, whoa, but yes. So I used the word, how humbling it was. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the right word, but what is the definition?
So this is a really good conversation we're about to have, because I was that, and I don't want to take away from that moment, because that's actually a really important distinction. I think when you're talking about a situation being humbling versus I want to be humble. So I wore humility like a badge. That was my thing in leadership. I want to be a humble leader. That was what I wanted to be known as. Someone who was highly successful, but approachable and stayed kind and grounded and compassionate. People felt my presence when they were with me. That was so important to me. And it was at a point in my leadership where I had a friend of mine say, you never tell people what you've accomplished. Like you never, ever say anything. I'm like, no, it's not who I am. I'm a humble leader. It's not important what I have done. What's important is all these beautiful people around me. And she said, but it's also important for people to know you. And that was like a moment where she just got me a little bit uncomfortable. I'm really grateful for that conversation, but it helped me go into the word humble. What in fact am I asking for here? And I looked up the word. And so the definition of humble is to be in less dignity or importance of somebody else. And when I learned that, I realized that's not what I want to be. I don't want to be less than somebody else in order for them to feel their importance. I actually want to stand with you. I want to be with you in your importance, and I want to be with you in mine. I want to be with you in your dignity, and I want to be with you in mine. So I don't want to be less than or dim myself in order to hold other people up. And what I realized, it's a different word for me. It's compassion. And I wonder if that's like a little bit, because when you were saying like, I wasn't sure if that was the word, that's what really started to resonate with me. It's like, I actually don't know if I wish to be a humble leader. I think I wish to be a highly compassionate leader, someone who sees people,
empathetic.
Cares. Yeah. And then there's a whole other podcast we could go down of like boundaries and how do you hold compassion? I mean, that's a whole other subject, but it's a really interesting thing as we start to build our leadership and we start to ask for more. I think my big message here I'd love to give everybody is when we ask for more, we have to be willing to step into more challenge, more lesson, more discomfort, more instability at times, more of us, more of being seen, more of being heard. If we actually, in fact, want more in our business to become successful, then there's more of us required in that.
It's true. And you got me thinking about this word humble is I hate being called boss.
Oh,
I know, right?
Boss babe. When you put the babe after it, then now I'm like, it's like fingers on a chalkboard.
But like boss is bossy. And then like, sure, maybe in the definition, I am someone's boss. I'm the boss of my team. But no, I always said I'm the leader and I'm your biggest support cheerleader. I don't know. I don't have to stand above you. I'm beside you. It's not that I know more than you. We're all actually all in this together. I just happen to write your paychecks. So there's more risk on my shoulders.
Well, and that's the thing. A leader can sit in the room and sit back in her confidence and let other people have the seat, let other people have a voice and hold that, hold herself and hold that entire room. I mean, that is the ultimate. And you're right. It's not a hierarchy in that point. There, you don't even need to prove anything to anybody. You don't need to have a title. You don't need to have anything. You just get to be in that room. And that is like sexy and alluring and beautiful. That's the type of woman I want to be around.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, 2 more questions really quickly. What has been your biggest lesson so far in leadership?
So my biggest lesson was, in fact, to do the healing, to go back and do the healing. And so that as I step into it and as I accept more, that I'm available for that. And I'm not carrying the weight of the past. I'm not carrying the weight of some wounds that have not yet been mended. And I'm instead really light. I can trek up this next journey, up this next mountain, and I can do it really well because I've dealt with everything and I've left some of those things behind that I don't need to carry anymore.
Man, that is like the ultimate responsibility because we think of these people, and we've probably all been in this position where we lead from a place of resentment that, oh, I'm the boss, so I'm better than you. You can't act like that or ask me those questions. But really what they're saying is, I'm in pain, I haven't healed, and this is coming out in this way. It's fascinating. I've actually never looked at it this way before.
I'm happy. We're having this conversation because I do think I think a lot of people are looking for like the 3 steps to growing to 6 figures. And here's what, like, here's the back end for a perfect launch. And those things matter. I love teaching those things because we all love productivity and we all love, creating ease and flow in everything we do. But it doesn't come before, because who are you being through that launch? Who are you being in your social media? That stuff matters more than an algorithm. That's an energy. That's energetics. And I believe so much in energetics. So to me, putting out a post with the right energy is more important than putting out a post every single day.
Do you know Heather Chauvin?
No.
Okay, you have to look her up. She talks about like energetic time management. And originally it was how it related to parenting, but how she realized the same rules apply to being an entrepreneur. But it's beautiful. It's like exactly what you're just talking about.
Energetics is something we're all like, I'm a big geek when it comes to that. Anything energetics, I could talk for hours, but I'm really grateful that this is being brought forward and people are seeing this so clearly now, because the potency of this is what will change people's lives. It's how you do things. It's who you are in the things you do that creates this like wow factor of life. It's showing up in integrity, and it's tidying up. Tidy up if you need to tidy up, and take a pause and figure things out, and it's okay. But do it in a way that really honors yourself, and do it in a way that feels really good. Because when you're building a business that feels good and you feel good in it, that's for the longevity. That's to sustain. I have watched many, more than I even want to think about, because it breaks my heart, entrepreneurs who have burnt themselves out, who are bitter and resentful, broken homes, all sorts of things, because they felt like they had to rush and they weren't doing it through the integral place that they could have.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was me historically. And in those moments was probably when I leveled up the most in entrepreneurship in terms of like income and winning awards and publishing books. But I was also burnt out. And when you're putting those two together, you start to resent these accomplishments. Yeah. You start to feel like you don't deserve them, because inside you're saying like, this sucks. I'm not happy yet. Hey, you won the female like phenomenal woman of the year award. And you're like, oh, but like, do I really deserve that? Because inside I'm just dying. Like I'm crying inside all the time. Yeah. Oh, okay. This is awesome. So if anybody wants more information on this stuff, they'll go online, and we'll talk about this in a moment to find this. But one last question. What does it mean to be a wild woman?
I really love that you are teaching to be a wild woman. So thank you. To me, a wild woman to me is to be all of ourselves. Like the sass, the rebellious, the tidy, the peaceful, the angry, the sad, the happy, the childlike, the playful. To me, if I envision a wild woman, I envision a woman who is completely herself. It's like a free feeling. I can just see her. And she's not afraid of other people seeing that as well. That to me is a wild woman.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. So people want to go and find you online. Where can they go?
So you can go to Jen Szpigiel. So it's JenSzpigiel. So it's a funny one, but I'm sure it'll be in the show notes. Yeah. Becoming Iconic podcast is where I hang out all the time. I do weekly master classes over there, and jenszpigiel.com if they want to come and check out the blog or whatever's hanging out over there. It's a good one.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time. The best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.